come in search of William Wilberforce, and I've found some of my greatest fears, and I'm angry, and I'm in pain. I've always had a ridiculous fear of the ocean. I now know that that ocean is a burial place of so many of my ancestors. That is their main memorial. And I cannot understand why, for so many centuries, mankind allowed this crime against humanity to continue.
I wanted to find out if Wilberforce featured in African commemorations of the abolition of the trade. An official Durbar, a gathering of chiefs, is held here each year for Africans from Ghana and those dispersed around the world.
Especially my brethren from the diaspora to the homeland.
This event is nothing to do with 1807. In Britain, most people don't realise that Wilberforce's bill only made the trade in Africans illegal. Slavery itself remained legal in Britain's colonies. This Durbar is an annual event commemorating Emancipation Day, or the date in 1838 when British slavery ended. The culmination of the day is a wreath-laying ceremony at the tombs of 2 enslaved Africans brought back to Ghana. These 2 graves stand for the nameless millions whose deaths went unmarked. There was no mention of Wilberforce here. I talked with a member of the Ghanaian government who set up the Emancipation Day Durbar to find out how Wilberforce was remembered.
Minister Obeche B.
Lamte. Welcome to Ghana.
Thank you very much. Now, does William Wilberforce have a place in Emancipation Day?
Well, Wilberforce played a role because there was no African who could actually speak on the floor of Parliament. Wilberforce could, so definitely he played a role, but I don't look upon him as a great emancipator because others played a role in the emancipation process as well, especially Africans played a role in the emancipation.
Ghana showed me that the slave trade cannot be understood through the story of one British campaigner. Before I left, I wanted to confront a final piece of this complicated history. The Durbar is held next to a river where captives had a last bath before being sold. A silent tribute is observed. European traders encouraged division between tribes, resulting in warfare and a steady supply of captives for sale. This African complicity in the trade is difficult to accept.
We have all been guilty of being hurtful to one another. So all of us have to find it in our hearts to seek forgiveness and then to offer forgiveness. When we can do that, then we can put this behind us. It's not a matter of blaming. It's not a matter of saying that your ancestors stole my ancestors. Because I can turn around and say, yes, that's because we won. If we had lost, you would have sold us. The system was guilty. Okay, and the system was a system that was created by the whites in the demand that they had for human beings to come and build the wealth of Britain, build the wealth of Europe, and build the wealth of the United States.
And that even those There were part of us that were taken out of Africa. Africa was never taken out of us. And it proves that today we remain one people.
In Britain, we remember the story of the slave trade very differently from other countries. But why? I headed to Hull, where Wilberforce was born in 1759. I wanted to find out about the man himself, in particular why Britain remembers him as the man who ended slavery when the 1807 bill only stopped the trade. I arranged to meet his biographer, Kevin Belmonte, at what was the Wilberforce family home.
Kevin, hello. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
Hi.
Do come through.
So this is the house. And the man himself.
Yes, and this would have been Wilberforce right about the time that the abolition of the slave trade bill was passed. There is quite a nice legend there at the base of the statue, which says, England owes to him the reformation of manners, the world owes to him the abolition of slavery.
Is that so?
Yes.
Right, because I know that he was fundamental to the abolition of the slave trade, but to slavery itself.
A slight clarification there, if I may. Of course, the necessary first step would have been to abolish the trade itself. But it became very clear within a few years of the actual abolition bill in 1807 that they were going to have to take aim at slavery itself. And so they began to lay deep foundations to take aim at slavery. But there was 26 years between the end of the slave trade and the abolition of slavery. It took far longer than Wilberforce would have liked or indeed hoped.
Despite the delay, such monuments reinforce the idea that Wilberforce ended slavery in 1807. I wanted to get beyond the misconceptions to discover the real man.
It's exquisite. Wow.
Wilberforce was born into a privileged merchant family. He went to Cambridge University, became an MP for Hull at just 21, and then for the whole of Yorkshire.
We'll begin first with the diary, and they've asked that we don the white gloves.
Thank you.
But in Wilberforce's journal, it's clear that he also believed in God and wanted to make a difference.
He's talking about here looking only to God for his future. Good causes, it was said, stuck to him like pins to a magnet. The founding of the RSPCA, prison reform, education reform. And the diary rather shows this. I mean, it's just crammed with information and the words are small. It's a metaphor, really, for how busy his life was. Mm-hmm. But in Parliament, he had never really found something that really would have been the driving.
So he was looking for a cause.
Yeah. This is a very special room, Moira.
More of Wilberforce's belongings were stored in the attic, including some of the clothes he wore.
He was tiny.
Yes. He was just a bit over 5 feet.
Many have suggested that he wasn't a handsome man.
We'll take a look at here. Yes, and here we see Wilberforce.
Now, that is a hunk.
You think? But one can see that his nose is a bit large.
I think it's a friendly nose, I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, one last thing to show you, if I may. And this actually comes back a bit after Wilberforce's lifetime. But it was inspired by the famous Wedgwood cameo with the legend, Am I not a man and a brother?
The Wedgwood cameo was probably the first campaign logo. Found on everything from tea sets to women's brooches, it was popular amongst abolition supporters. But today, it's an awkward and difficult image.
It's a testament to how an awareness of the work with which he and so many others were involved remains.
What does that say to you?
Well, I think the legend says a lot. Thou, God, seest me. And Britain still needs to be aware of the needs of the sons and daughters of Africa.
It seems a travesty of the African who has fought for his freedom, to be seen in this as a mere supplicant.
But it's
He
something.
had a bad case of gingivitis.
Well, it's a far cry from the Wedgwood cameo, to be sure.
Indeed.